For centuries, we've had this one single image of the pyramid builders. Thousands of slaves, cracking under a blistering sun, driven by the merciless whip of an overseer. It's a powerful picture, practically burned into our collective memory by Hollywood and old stories. But what if that picture is totally, completely wrong? Before we deep dive into the history, my name is Boris, and I'd love to know, where are you listening from, and what was the best part of your day? Feel free to share it in the comments below. Now, settle in. Let's drift gently into the past. What if the men and women who built one of the greatest wonders of the world weren't slaves at all, but a respected, well-fed, and highly organized workforce? The real story, unearthed from the sands of Giza, is so much more surprising and, frankly, more fascinating than the myth. So, where did the whole slaves built the pyramids idea even come from? Well, mostly from the Greek historian Herodotus, who wrote about it around 450 BC, a full 2,000 years after the Great Pyramid was finished. For a long time, people just ran with it. But modern archaeology has completely shattered that myth. The first crack in the old story appeared by pure accident. In 1990, a tourist's horse tripped on a buried mud brick wall near the Giza plateau. That stumble led archaeologists like Zahi Hawass and Mark Lehner to a discovery that changed everything: the tombs of the pyramid builders themselves. Now, just think about that for a second. In ancient Egypt, a proper burial was a sacred honor. You didn't give a dignified burial to a disposable slave, right in the shadow of the pharaoh's own divine tomb. These weren't mass graves. The tombs were modest, sure, but they were filled with jars of bread and beer for the afterlife, a clear sign of respect. This discovery was the thread that unraveled the whole slave narrative. Suddenly, the old story didn't make sense. If they weren't slaves, who on earth were these people? As it turns out, the answer was just a few hundred meters away, in the lost city they called home. So, who were the builders? They were Egyptians. The workforce was a clever mix of year-round, highly skilled artisans and a much larger group of seasonal laborers. Many of these laborers were farmers. Each year, when the Nile River flooded the fields and made farming impossible, thousands of men from all over Egypt would travel to Giza to take part in this great national project. This wasn't forced labor. It was more like a civic duty, a way for people to pay their taxes and contribute to something of immense cultural and religious importance. And they were compensated for it. The discovery of papyri, like the 4,500-year-old logbook of an inspector named Mera, reveals a highly organized operation. It meticulously tracks shipments of stone and the daily activities of work crews. This wasn't the ledger of an overseer counting slaves. It was the project management paperwork for a massive state-run corporation. Let's try to step into their shoes for a day. Imagine a builder we'll call Nakht. His day starts before dawn, not in chains, but in a real house inside a bustling, planned city. The air already smells of baking bread, thousands of loaves churned out by huge state-run bakeries that archaeologists have unearthed. Breakfast is simple but packed with energy. Bread, maybe some onions or dates, and a jug of beer. Yes, beer. In ancient Egypt, beer wasn't just for happy hour. It was a nutritious, calorie-rich staple of the daily diet and a form of payment. Fueled up, Nakht joins his crew for the short walk to the plateau. As the sun rises, lighting up the growing mountain of limestone, he isn't filled with dread. He's there with a purpose. The construction site wasn't a chaotic mob. It was a scene of incredible organization. The workforce, maybe 10 to 20,000 strong, was divided into large crews, then into smaller divisions called files, and finally into gangs of about 20 men. And we know their names because they left them for us. Hidden on blocks that were never meant to be seen again, crews painted their team names in red ochre. Markings like the Friends of Khufu Gang or the drunkards of Menkaure have been found. This isn't the graffiti of the oppressed. This is the proud, competitive trash talk of teams that took immense pride in their work. Nakht's crew might be quarrymen using copper chisels to carve out massive limestone blocks. Other teams are haulers dragging the multi-ton blocks on huge wooden sledges. To make it easier, a worker walks ahead, pouring just the right amount of water on the sand to reduce friction. A simple but brilliant piece of physics. There's no evidence of wheels or complex pulleys, just immense manpower, rope, and incredible ingenuity. At the pyramid, master masons use simple tools like plumb bobs and sighting rods to place the stones with a precision that still baffles modern engineers. Every single worker had a specialized role in this giant human-powered machine. Section 5. Fueling the machine, a diet for builders. Building a pyramid is brutal, back-breaking work, and the Egyptian state knew an army marches on its stomach. The evidence from the workers' village shows a food supply chain on an industrial scale. Archaeologists have found the bones of thousands of animals. It's estimated that every single day, the builders were supplied with over 4,000 pounds of meat from cattle, sheep, and goats. This wasn't just scraps. Analysis shows they were eating prime cuts of beef, a rare luxury for the average farmer, but a daily staple for the pyramid builders. They were likely eating better at Giza than they did back home. And what if Nakht got hurt on the job? He wasn't cast aside. Skeletons found in the workers' cemetery show incredible evidence of advanced medical care. Archaeologists have found bones that were surgically set and healed correctly, skulls that show signs of brain surgery, and even amputated limbs that healed, meaning the patient survived the operation long after. The state invested heavily in keeping its skilled labor force healthy and on the job. This is the kind of human detail, uncovered through decades of patient archaeology, that completely flips our understanding of this ancient wonder. If you find this hidden history as fascinating as we do, make sure to subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss our next dive into the past. When the grueling day was over, Nakht and his crew didn't go back to a slave pit. They went home to a purpose-built city that archaeologists call Heit el-Ghurab, the Wall of the Crow. Excavations here have revealed an incredibly organized settlement. There are long barracks that could house thousands of rotating laborers in clean, orderly conditions. But there were also separate neighborhoods with individual houses for the permanent craftsmen and officials who lived there with their families. This was a real, functioning city. It had paved streets, bakeries, breweries, granaries, and even a port that brought in supplies from all over Egypt. It was a place of community, where thousands of people lived and worked toward a shared goal. They weren't just building a tomb for a king, they were building a life for themselves in the shadow of their own monumental achievement. So if not the whip, what was the motivation? Why would tens of thousands of people dedicate their lives to hauling stones in the desert? The answer is all about what the pyramid represented. It wasn't just a tomb, it was an engine of eternity, a project of immense religious importance that ensured the stability of the entire world. To the ancient Egyptians, the pharaoh was the living link between humanity and the gods. His successful resurrection guaranteed Ma'at, the cosmic order, balance, and prosperity of the kingdom. If the king was successfully reborn with the gods, the Nile would flood, the crops would grow, and Egypt would be prosperous and protected. To work on the pyramid was to take a direct hand in maintaining the fabric of the universe. It was a religious and civic duty and a source of incredible national pride. They were building for their king, their country, and their gods. They were literally building eternity. So let's toss out that old, tired image of the slave and the whip. Let's replace it with the picture painted by science and archaeology. Picture Nakht, a skilled Egyptian craftsman. He wakes up in his own house, eats a meal of meat and bread, and walks to a work site where he joins his team, the Friends of Khufu, to build something that will outlast civilizations. The Great Pyramid is not a monument to oppression. It is a testament to human ingenuity, social organization, and the power of a shared faith. The true wonder of Giza isn't just how they moved the stones, it's how they moved an entire society to work together, to innovate, and to achieve the impossible. They weren't slaves, they were builders, and their real story isn't just written in stone, but in the bones, tools, and city they left behind for us to find. What part of the builders' lives surprises you the most? The prime-cut stakes, the medical care, or the witty team names? Let us know in the comments. And for more secrets from the ancient world, don't forget to like and subscribe. The story behind the Great Pyramid of Giza. For 4.5 millennia, it's commanded the horizon, a man-made mountain of stone rising from the desert sands. It is the last survivor of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, a geometric marvel so perfect and so vast, it seems to defy the limits of human capability. The Great Pyramid of Giza. We see its iconic shape, and we think we know its story. A tomb, a monument, a final silent resting place for a king. But that simple definition, the one we've accepted for centuries, barely scratches the surface of a far more profound and ambitious truth. This is a story of power, of belief, and of an unprecedented quest for immortality. The Great Pyramid of Giza. For centuries we've thought of it as just a tomb, a massive, silent monument to a dead king. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the Great Pyramid wasn't just about death, but about creating a new kind of eternity? We're going to unravel the true story of this ancient wonder, a story not just of stone and sand, but of a pharaoh's audacious plan to become a god and align his kingdom with the cosmos itself. This wasn't just a building, it was a cosmic engine. To stand at the foot of the Great Pyramid is to be humbled. It's a feeling that connects us across time to every traveler, scholar, and conqueror who has ever gazed up at its face. The numbers alone are staggering. It was constructed from an estimated 2.3 million blocks of limestone and granite. Some of these blocks, particularly the granite beams in the internal chambers, weigh as much as 80 tons. To put that in perspective, that's like lifting nearly 45 cars. For over 3,800 years after its completion, it was the tallest man-made structure on Earth, a record not surpassed until the Lincoln Cathedral was built in England in the 14th century. But its size is only part of the mystery. The true marvel is its precision. The base is an almost perfect square, with its sides aligned to the 4 cardinal points, north, south, east, and west, with an accuracy that is almost unbelievable, off by just a fraction of a degree. How could a civilization working 4,500 years ago, with tools of copper and stone, achieve such a feat of engineering? This question, this apparent gap between their known technology and the result, has been fertile ground for a century of speculation. It's a mystery so profound that it has invited fantastic theories of lost technologies or even extraterrestrial assistance. While these ideas are tantalizing, they often miss a crucial point. The truth of what the ancient Egyptians accomplished is, in many ways, almost harder to believe. The story of the pyramid isn't about alien architects. It's about human potential pushed to its absolute extreme, driven by a vision that reached beyond the confines of Earth and into the heavens. To understand this monument, we can't just look at the stones. We have to look at the man who commanded them to be placed. His name was Khufu. He was the second pharaoh of Egypt's 4th dynasty, ruling in the 26th century BCE. And while his pyramid is the most famous monument on the planet, the man himself is an enigma. The only fully preserved statue of him ever found is a tiny ivory figurine, just 3 inches tall. Yet this was the king who marshaled the resources, the manpower, and the sheer force of will to undertake the most ambitious construction project in human history. So why do it? the answer isn't just about a desire for a grand tomb. It was about a fundamental belief that the pharaoh was the linchpin of the universe. Khufu wasn't just building his final resting place. He was building a machine to ensure his own divinity and, in doing so, to guarantee the eternal stability of Egypt itself. To grasp the audacity of the Great Pyramid, you have to picture the Egypt of the Old Kingdom, a nation unlike any other on Earth. This wasn't a world of constant warfare or fractured city-states. The Fourth Dynasty, Khufu's era, was a period of remarkable stability, prosperity, and centralized power. The Nile's predictable floods created agricultural surpluses that freed up a huge portion of the population for other tasks. A sophisticated bureaucracy, a legacy from his father Sneferu, allowed the pharaoh to manage the kingdom's resources with incredible efficiency. This created the perfect incubator for a project on the scale of the Great Pyramid. At the heart of this entire system was the pharaoh. He wasn't just a king, he was a god in human form, the living embodiment of Horus, the link between the earthly and celestial realms. This was the central pillar of Egyptian society. His most sacred duty was to maintain Ma'at, a concept that encompasses order, truth, balance, and cosmic justice. Ma'at was the divine harmony that kept the universe running. Chaos, or Isfet, was its opposite, and it was the pharaoh's job to keep it at bay. A successful reign meant Ma'at was upheld. The pyramid project itself was a powerful tool for reinforcing this idea, mobilizing the entire state to create a perfect, geometrically aligned structure was a physical manifestation of Ma'at. It was a national project that demonstrated the pharaoh's absolute command over the physical world, proving his right to rule. This earthly power was meant to mirror a cosmic journey. For the ancient Egyptians, life on Earth was just a prelude. The afterlife was a complex voyage where the soul had to navigate the underworld, face judgment, and ultimately be reborn into an eternal paradise. For the pharaoh, the stakes were even higher. His destination was the sky, to take his place among the imperishable stars, the circumpolar stars that never set, and to sail across the heavens with the sun god, Ra, for all eternity. This divine transformation, however, depended on his physical body remaining intact. This belief drove mummification and the evolution of the tomb. The journey to the Great Pyramid was a long one, starting with simple pit graves that evolved into mud brick mastabas. A revolutionary leap occurred with the pharaoh Djoser, whose architect, the legendary Imhotep, stacked 6 mastabas on top of one another, creating the world's first monumental stone building, the Step Pyramid at Saqqara. Khufu's own father, Sneferu, was the greatest pyramid builder before him. His reign was a period of intense architectural experimentation. His first attempt at Meidum seems to have failed. His second, the bent pyramid at Dashur, had its angle changed midway through construction, likely due to fears of instability. Finally, with the Red Pyramid, Sneferu built the first successful true smooth-sided pyramid, setting the stage for his son. The Great Pyramid wasn't a sudden miracle. It was the stunning culmination of a century of trial and error, all fueled by the absolute necessity of ensuring the king's journey to godhood. Khufu's vision demanded a location worthy of its ambition. The Giza Plateau was a stroke of genius. Geologically, it offered a solid limestone bedrock foundation, essential for supporting the pyramid's immense weight of nearly 6 million tons. Strategically, its proximity to the Nile was critical. Recent discoveries have confirmed that a now-lost branch of the Nile, the Ahramat branch, flowed much closer to the plateau, allowing for an intricate system of canals and harbors. This watery highway was the project's lifeline, allowing barges to deliver white Tura limestone for the casing stones from across the river, and the massive granite blocks for the inner chambers from Aswan, more than 500 miles to the south. Symbolically, Giza was perfect. It was on the west bank of the Nile, which the Egyptians associated with the setting sun and the land of the dead. It was also high ground, a place of prominence, a stage for the greatest architectural statement the world had ever seen. And what a statement it was! We often see the Great Pyramid in isolation, but it was the centerpiece of a vast complex for resurrection. Surrounding it was a mortuary temple for daily rituals and offerings. From here, a long covered causeway ran down to a valley temple on the banks of the harbor, likely where Khufu's body was received for the final rites. The complex also included 3 smaller pyramids for his queens and a satellite pyramid. Most fascinating are the 5 enormous boat pits. In 1954, one was excavated to reveal a full-sized, perfectly preserved cedarwood boat disassembled into over 1,200 pieces. This was a solar bark, a magical vessel meant to carry the reborn king across the sky with the sun god Ra. Every element of the Giza complex was designed with purpose, a step in the drama of the king's transition from mortal ruler to eternal god. The pyramid itself was a masterpiece of cosmic alignment, its sides oriented to the 4 cardinal directions with an accuracy of within 1/15 of a degree. This precision suggests a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. Egyptologists believe the builders may have used the fall equinox, tracking the sun's shadow with a rod to find a perfect east-west line. This alignment wasn't for looks, it was fundamental. By locking the pyramid into the cosmic grid, the Egyptians were integrating it into the very fabric of the universe. This connection continued inside. The internal layout is unique, with 3 main chambers. An unfinished subterranean chamber is cut deep into the bedrock. Higher up is the so-called Queen's Chamber, and highest of all, the King's Chamber, reached via the breathtaking Grand Gallery. The King's Chamber is built entirely of red granite and houses the sarcophagus, which must have been placed as the pyramid was built around it. Above it lie 5 stress-relieving chambers, a testament to the builder's understanding of structural mechanics. Perhaps the most mysterious features are the narrow shafts extending from the King's and Queen's chambers. Once thought to be for ventilation, that theory makes little sense for a sealed tomb. A more compelling interpretation is that they are star shafts. The southern shaft from the King's Chamber pointed towards the constellation Orion, which the Egyptians identified with their god of resurrection, Osiris. The northern shaft pointed to the circumpolar stars, the imperishable ones that never die. These shafts were essentially launch tubes for the pharaoh's soul, pathways directing his spirit to its stellar destinations. An undertaking of this magnitude required an unprecedented mobilization of people. For centuries, the popular image, influenced by the Greek historian Herodotus, was that the pyramids were built by slaves. But this is a myth. Discoveries over the last half-century have completely overturned this narrative. Just south of the Giza Plateau, archaeologists Mark Lehner and Zahi Hawass uncovered the ruins of a lost city known as Heit el-Ghurab. This was the workers' village, a sprawling, highly organized settlement that housed tens of thousands of laborers, and it was no slave camp. Excavations have revealed barracks for a rotating workforce, bakeries capable of producing thousands of loaves of bread, and breweries. The most compelling evidence comes from the mountains of animal bones unearthed at the site. Analysis shows the workers were fed a diet rich in protein, eating enormous quantities of beef, mutton, goat, and fish. This was a diet far better than that of the average Egyptian, suggesting the state was heavily investing in its workforce. They were not expendable, they were a valuable resource. Further evidence comes from the workers' cemetery. Here, builders were buried with honor in modest tombs, some with tools of their trade. Skeletons show the signs of hard physical labor, arthritis and strained vertebrae, but also evidence of advanced medical care. Many skeletons show broken bones that had been properly set and had healed, a clear indication that injured workers were cared for, not cast aside. So who were these people? The workforce appears to have been a mix of a permanent cadre of skilled craftsmen and a larger rotating force of seasonal laborers. These were likely farmers, conscripted as a form of labor tax known as a corvée during the annual Nile inundation when the fields were flooded. For these men, coming to Giza was a civic and religious duty, a chance to earn better rations and contribute to a divine project that ensured the stability of their world. The logistics of this operation are almost as impressive as the pyramid itself. Quarrying teams cut limestone blocks and harder granite, which were then hauled on wooden sledges. Recent finds at the Hatnub quarry revealed a preserved ramp with stairways and post holes, suggesting a system for hauling heavy blocks up steep inclines with ropes. For Giza, a series of such ramps, perhaps spiraling around the outside or built internally, would have been used to raise the millions of blocks into place. It was a triumph of project management, orchestrated by a powerful and highly organized government. We've explored the who, the how, and the why. But now we arrive at the core idea that ties it all together. The Great Pyramid of Giza wasn't a passive monument or just a tomb. It was built to be an active, functioning machine, a cosmic engine designed to transform a mortal king into an immortal god and eternally anchor the terrestrial realm to the celestial one. This concept begins with its very shape. The pyramid is a physical representation of the Benben, the primordial mound that was said to have emerged from the chaotic waters at the beginning of creation. By building a massive, permanent Benben of stone, Khufu was tying his own destiny to the very moment of creation. His tomb was a symbol of cosmic origins and perpetual rebirth. This symbol was designed to function as a launch pad. The Egyptians saw their king's soul ascending to the heavens, and the pyramid was the mechanism for that ascent. Its sloping sides were a literal ramp to the stars. As we've seen, the internal shafts were precisely aligned to guide his spirit towards its divine destinations. Osiris in Orion's belt and the imperishable circumpolar stars. The entire structure was a piece of spiritual technology. The construction itself, a project that took around 20 years, was a colossal national ritual. The quarrying of the stone, the precise alignment, the back-breaking labor, all of it was part of a sacred act. By imposing this perfect geometric order on the Giza plateau, the Egyptians were actively reinforcing Ma'at on earth. It was a powerful piece of state propaganda written in stone, a constant reminder of the pharaoh's power and his divine connection. And this brings us to the ultimate purpose. This colossal undertaking wasn't just for Khufu's personal benefit. It was an investment in national security on a cosmic scale. The Egyptians believed a successful pharaoh in the afterlife could continue to protect Egypt from the celestial realm. His continued presence among the gods ensured the rising of the Nile, the fertility of the fields, and the stability of the kingdom. If the king's journey failed, it could spell disaster for the nation. Therefore, the Great Pyramid was the most important infrastructure project in the country's history. It was a state-sponsored program to guarantee the eternal well-being of Egypt by ensuring its king became an effective god. The immense cost and decades of labor were a rational investment when measured against the goal: eternity for the king, and by extension, stability for the kingdom forever. The story of Giza is a powerful testament to human ingenuity and the profound depths of belief. It shows how a single powerful idea can shape a civilization and leave a mark on the world that lasts for millennia. If you're fascinated by the incredible stories our ancestors left for us in stone, and you want to explore more of these journeys into the ancient world, consider subscribing to the channel. There are so many more mysteries to uncover together. So the next time you see an image of the Great Pyramid, look beyond the simple shape. Don't see it as just a silent monument to a long-dead king. See it for what it truly is, the result of an audacious 2-decade-long national ritual to turn a man into a god. See the astronomical observatory, the resurrection machine, and the physical anchor of cosmic order. See the embodiment of Ma'at, built by a proud and well-cared-for nation of believers, not by slaves. For thousands of years, it stood as the tallest structure on Earth, a testament to an ambition that seems almost superhuman. Today, it remains the only one of the original 7 wonders of the ancient world still standing, a silent witness to the rise and fall of empires, the shifting of sands, and the passing of ages. The Great Pyramid of Giza is ultimately more than stone. It is a monument to an idea. It represents the timeless human quest to understand our place in the cosmos, to challenge our own mortality, and to leave behind something that will outlast us, something that reaches for eternity. It's the story of a king who sought to become a star and, in doing so, created a wonder that would forever captivate the world.